Jay Rosen has been a professor at NYU since 1985. From 1999 to 2005, he served as the department chair. As many of you know, he is the author of Press Think, a web blog that began in the fall of 2003. In 2005, he won the Reporters Without Borders Freedom Award for outstanding defense of free expression. By 2007, Press Think already had more than 2 million visits. He also blogs for the Huffington Post. In 2006, he announcannounced a joint project with Wired.com called Assignment Zero, and later a second project with offthebus.net with Huffington Post. Both are open source reporting projects. Professor Rosen is a former member of the Wikipedia Advisory Board and is currently on the advisory board of Digital First Media, which runs newspapers, 2 newspaper companies, and he is a member of the advisory board of Post Media, the largest newspaper company in Canada. He has published a book, What Are Journalists For?, about the rise of civic journalism. He is a frequent press critic and reviewer. He has published in The Nation, Columbia Journalism Review, the Chronicle of Higher Education, The New Yorker, The Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, Newsday, and many others. He has written online for Salon.com, TomPaine.com, and Pointer.org. In the first installment of the Press Think blog in 2003, Professor Rosen wrote, "We need to keep the press from being absorbed into the media. This means keeping the word press, which is antiquated, but included under its modern umbrella should be all those who do serious work in journalism, regardless of the technology used." Today, he is going to talk to us about the present situation in the American press, a sketch for media historians. We are very honored to have him as our keynote speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anne. When I got the invitation to do the keynote for this conference, I hesitated for a bit because I knew it was going to be a very personal event for me. It's personal because my wife is here, and she almost never attends my speeches because she's working or taking care of the kids, but this is a Saturday, so this is a totally rare thing. That makes it personal. It means that I'm very nervous. It's personal because you're here in our home. This is where we do our work at NYU. This is the journalism school where I teach. So it's very personal to welcome you to our space, and we're very glad that you used it for this conference. This is what we all want the building to be hosting and doing while we're here or not here. It's also personal for me, this talk, because of something that happened in 1991 and 92. I was an assistant professor of journalism at NYU, untenured, and I had the opportunity to edit a scholarly quarterly that might publish people like yourselves. And it was called Communication, just Communication. It's founded by and edited at the time by James Carey, who was, to my mind, the senior scholar and intellectual god of our field. And Carey had started the journal, but had gotten tired of running it, wanted somebody else to run it, somebody else's vision to infuse the quarterly. And I had discussions with the company that published that journal, and they pretty much offered me the job. And I thought very seriously about it, because being able to edit a scholarly quarterly over a period of 4 to 5 years and decide what goes into it is a lot of power. But that was cool. And I started thinking about, well, if I had 4 years of an academic journal to shape that journal and like make it publish what it should publish, that would be a very challenging thing to do, and it would be good for my prospects at tenure time because it's a very scholarly thing to do. Be editor of a journal in the field is like considered prestigious. So I had to think about it, and I ultimately decided not to do it because at the same time I was starting this other kind of work, very different from writing journalism history, very different from scholarly literature and its accumulation. I started doing this other kind of work with professional journalists who were asking questions they had not asked for a very long time because their systems were breaking down. Their influence was eroding. They were running into problems of trust, problems of connection in their communities that they hadn't had in a long period of dominance in those communities. And because they were working journalists wrestling with questions that ultimately became very large, like what is the right relationship between the press and the community, I started to get involved with them, not as a working journalist myself, because I'm actually one of you. I'm a scholar of the media. I'm a PhD in media studies. But in order to interpret what they were doing to others and also provide them with the best ideas that I could. So I started working in what became known as the civic journalism movement, which was engaging with journalists about reform in the press. That led to, when the digital revolution came, participating in the new media myself as a producer, which is how I started my blog, Press Think, and working on projects, innovation projects with journalists who are trying to do new things with digital tools. This is the direction that my work took when I made that decision. And today I'm an advisor to media companies who are trying to grapple with the present situation in the American press. So this talk today is an opportunity for me to go back 20 years to 1992, to where I took this path that diverged, and to bring it perhaps together. So the title of my talk is The Present Situation in the American Press. I worked really hard on it because it has to be good because it's personal. A sketch for historians, and that's my Twitter address, and if you want to comment on Twitter, a good hashtag would be PressSitch. All right, now, first thing I need to do, since you're all in my classroom here, that's how we set it up. It's like a giant seminar. Is I need you to make some critical distinctions with me so I can tell you what the present situation in the American press is. So I want to begin with this need, in order to understand what I'm going to tell you, to lift and separate, and yes, I'm quoting Wonder Bra commercials from the 1970s and 80s. Remember that? Lift and separate.